ahead and share my screen. All right, is everybody able to see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So this morning, as Dominica mentioned, I will be sharing with you regarding the Alaska Performance Scholarship. Again, my name is Kate Hillenbrand. I serve as the Director of Communications with ACPE. Unfortunately, my co-presenter this morning, Felicia Swanson from DEED CTE, is not able to join us. So I will be doing my best to hold up the deed side of the presentation. But again, if there are any specific questions for deed, we certainly have Felicia's contact information that we can share with you at the end of the presentation. So you'll have a way to follow up. So I'll give you a little bit of context for the Alaska Performance Scholarship. It was established in 2011 and was funded or is funded by the Higher Education Investment Fund, or the HEIF as we refer to it. And it is administered, as I said earlier in my first presentation, it's administered by ACPE. The Alaska Performance Scholarship is a merit-based scholarship, and it is awarded to students who meet very specific eligibility criteria while they are in high school. There are three main goals of the Alaska Performance Scholarship. It is to really kind of, incentivize students in performing well in high school, looking at a curriculum that will help make sure they are prepared for and successful in college, career, and technical training. And also with the goal of continuing, not only continuing their education in Alaska, but also to participate in the Alaska workforce and in our Alaska communities after completing their education and career training. So we'll get into a lot of the changes that happened with the APS this summer, but to give you some, again, foundational information, there are 3 award levels that a student can become eligible for. Level 1 of the APS is now $7,000 per academic year. Level 2 is $5,250, and then level 3 is $3,500 per academic year. So with APS, there are, this looks a bit probably like alphabet soup here, but there are different entities in the state that have a role and responsibility in supporting APS and providing this as an opportunity, a funding opportunity for our students. So we have, first off, we'll talk about DEED, the Department of Education and Early Development. Their responsibilities are related to coursework and curriculum. So kind of establishing the overarching framework that school districts then need to identify and work through, and identifying the specific courses that students may take to become eligible. They've also identified the GPA and test score standards that a student would need to meet to become eligible. And then DEED sends the eligibility reports from the school district to ACPE for us to then disperse the Alaska Performance Scholarship Awards for the students. So we get those eligibility reports from DEED, that'll come into play a little bit later. Then we have the Alaska school districts. So again, the school districts are the ones tracking the students' eligibility in terms of ensuring that they, tracking the courses that they've taken, that they're meeting the curriculum requirements, as well as either the GPA or test score requirements. They're responsible for reporting APS eligibility to DEED. And then with the new APS legislation that again was passed this summer, the school districts will also be responsible for increasing earlier awareness about the award and an earlier or notifying students earlier of their eligibility for the Alaska Performance Scholarship. In terms of ACPE's responsibilities and role within or under the umbrella of APS, we set the application process or the application requirement, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. We also establish the continuing eligibility requirements, which is what the students need to do, the requirements that they need to meet after they have graduated high school and they're attending a post-secondary institution in the state. So that the continuing eligibility would be the enrollment and the GPA that they need to maintain in order to continue receiving the award. We also disperse the Alaska Performance Scholarship based on the eligibility report, the initial one that we get from DEED, and then we disperse it continuing from there based on the certification that is completed, the enrollment certification that's completed by the post-secondary institution, which ties into that next piece, which is processing the award certifications from the institution. And then again, we work very closely with our institutional partners to make sure that we have the kind of mechanisms to go back and forth and ensure timely distribution of awarding. And then lastly, we have the Department of Labor and Workforce Development. They are part of the APS process related to career and technical education coursework and the program eligibility determination for CTE courses in high school. So next, we're going to take a little bit of a look back. A lot of this presentation will be about kind of the changes and going forward and what we're really excited to be in this next iteration of APS. But I think it's important to give a little bit of context and information as to how we got here, how we got to this exciting place that we have arrived at. So again, as I'd mentioned, APS was, it started back in 2011. And then 10 years later, ACPE contracted with an entity called McKinley Research Group to conduct, to conduct a kind of 10-year program review to assess, where are we at with this program? Let's take a look back, look at the data and see what it tells us. So that report by MRG, or McKinley Research Group, was published in 2021 with some various program highlights. That program report is available at the link on the website or on the screen there, acpe.alaska.gov/reports. But sort of the top 4 takeaways regarding the program review connected to APS eligibility and use trends, awareness of APS eligibility on the student side of things, the qualification status, so how students became qualified or eligible to receive the award, and interest around on the student's behalf, the interest around the award. And then it also, the 4th part, talked about access challenges and some of the barriers that, patterns of barriers that we were finding in students being able to receive the award. So in light of the MRG program review, they also incorporated various program recommendations for us to take back and for other education stakeholders across the state to take a look at from a policy perspective. So there were a variety of recommendations that they put forth. The top recommendations being around simplifying the program eligibility. So simplifying kind of that path to eligibility, increasing APS flexibility, and that is with relation to the types of programming, education programming in Alaska that students can use the APS for after they graduate high school. increasing access and that, reinforcing the commitment to equity in terms of accessing the award. And then also increasing the award amount to stay relevant to the increased costs of education, post-secondary education that we've seen across the state. So those were the top recommendations that came out of the MRG report and program review. So since then, since 2021, when the program was published, or excuse me, the report was published, there were many legislative efforts and entities kind of coming together saying, we support modernizing APS. We want to see it improve. We want to see an increase in access and use of the Alaska Performance Scholarship by our Alaska students. But the thing that is important for everyone to know is it is not as simple as, going into the program rules and just making changes administratively. The Alaska Performance Scholarship is in statute. Therefore, any program changes did require legislative changes to happen. So again, various efforts have been put forth since 2021 to modernize APS. So we were thrilled that by May of 2024, both the House and Senate did pass legislation, which was HB House Bill 148, again with the goal of modernizing the Alaska Performance Scholarship. And then on June 28th, 2024, the governor did in fact sign this landmark legislation after years of declining eligibility and use. So that happened again, as I said, on June 28th, and it has been quite a ride for the 8 weeks after that to try and or to implement all of these changes because the changes were effective immediately for the class of 2024. So it was a huge lift to be able to do all of this with a lot of partners, again, around the state, from DEED, from our school districts, from the post-secondary institutions. A very, very large scale effort was put or occurred to be able to implement this and for the students who graduated with the class of 2024. So moving forward, for the class of 2024 and beyond, what you see in front of you are the updated eligibility requirements and components of the Alaska Performance Scholarship. Perhaps one of the biggest changes was that it removed the standardized test score requirement. It made it an or. So basically now students can become APS eligible by either meeting a minimum GPA requirement or the minimum test score requirement. So previously it was and, they had to have a minimum GPA and test score. Now it's an or. The award amount has been increased at each level. As I mentioned on one of my earlier slides, the top level now being awarded $7,000 a year. They've also expanded the qualifying high school curriculum options. So providing students additional pathways in high school to become eligible because continuing or completing a rigorous high school curriculum is still a requirement, but just the options of meeting that rigorous high school curriculum has expanded because, again, we know not all schools, not all districts can offer the same coursework throughout the state. There is also a new notification component of the changes where schools will deliver an earlier award notification mid-junior year. Right now, or as it was before, students did not know or were not notified until after graduation of their official eligibility status to receive the Alaska Performance Scholarship. And as many of us know, that was far too late for students to be finding out that they will definitively get the award or not. So this earlier award notification, the hope is that that the Earlier awareness means there'll be, students will have more time to make an informed decision about where they would like to pursue post-secondary, and also the financial aid impacts of earning this award. Basically, this earlier award notification will inform students, that they're on track to receive the APS and XYZ are the courses that they need to complete by the time they graduate in order to receive it. So it again, it gives them that pathway that they need to be better informed. The legislation also eliminated the distinction between the collegiate and CTE award tracks. So prior to this, there was a collegiate award that a student could only use for particular programs based on taking the work keys. And so they could only use it for a particular pathway and programming post-secondary, or they could earn the collegiate award, which could only be for particular pathways as well. So now there is no separate award track. APS is APS. They can use it in any kind of post-secondary programming. They also have extended the term of use. So instead of it being 6 years, the student now has 8 years to utilize the Alaska Performance Scholarship from the date of their high school graduation. Then lastly, this is more for the continuing eligibility side. Once a student is enrolled in post-secondary, we now offer a step-up provision where the student's award level can increase after 2 terms or semesters. So if a student begins post-secondary, let's say out of high school, they've qualified for a level 3. And then after, 2 semesters in post-secondary, their GPA has increased enough to qualify them for the next level up on the award, to a level 2 or even a level 1. They have that opportunity to step up and receive a higher award level. So they're able to do that from a level 3 to level 2, and then a level 2 to a level 1. So that's an excellent provision as well that has been added. So then from here also, this is a lot of information, a lot of changes that have happened. It's really important for all of you to know that there is a tremendous amount of resources that are available about APS through ACPE that we can provide your offices, your districts, your communities. So we have kind of quick sheets about APS, about both the Alaska Performance Scholarship and the Alaska Education Grant, as well as the Alaska Student Aid Portal. That is another component that we can speak about. So we have a lot of this information that we can share out. We can mail to you. It's available online for download. So you can have these resources kind of at the ready when you are working with students and families. Next, we also have kind of these little bit more in-depth resources for you to keep on hand as well. We have our the frequently asked questions, or FAQs. This is a document that is up and available on the Alaska Performance website, which is aps.alaska.gov. And it is something that, so we have 2 different versions of the FAQs. We have the brand new one that is on the screen. It's on the left for the class of 2024 and beyond, with all of the APS updates. So we have that FAQ, which we are continuing to update as additional questions come up or points of clarification that are needed. This document is updated on an ongoing basis. So we definitely recommend that instead of printing it out and handing it out, just continually sort of refresh and go back and check out that the FAQs, because new information is being added frequently. We also have the Alaska Performance Scholarship checklist. So this is a great tool for, for students, for parents and families to utilize, that gives it's kind of that roadmap. So it goes through the three different type curriculum options that a student can follow in order to qualify for the Alaska Performance Scholarship. So it has that for them to follow. It also explains a little bit more in depth about which courses and the substitutions that they can take when they're in high school. And then it also covers the required GPA or test score levels to become eligible for either level 1, level 2, or level 3. And again, this is the checklist that's right in the middle of the screen. That eligibility for level 1, as we talked about before, it's an either or. So a student can qualify for a level 1. Again, they have to complete that rigorous curriculum. So curriculum option A, B, or C. So that's one part. Everyone has to complete that. But then they would either need to meet that 3.5 GPA or greater, or meet one of those minimum qualifying test scores. Then for the level 2 would be a GPA of a 3.0, or again, one of those 3 minimum qualifying test scores. And then the level 3 is that minimum GPA of a 2.5 and one of those minimum qualifying test scores. A student only needs to take one, if they are going to qualify by their test score, they only need to take one test. They don't need to be taking all 3. That was a question that was asked to me recently, so I did want to share that out. And then there are also, on the back side of this form goes into a little bit greater detail about what types of courses and curriculum options are available in districts. Ultimately, the school district will make the determination about which courses qualify, which courses fall into each of these different categories. So questions around curriculum would either need to be referred back to the district or potentially to DEED. Those qualifiers, that's not something that ACPE participates in. And then lastly, the form on the right is another kind of quick sheet, sort of an at a glance about APS, with the backside of it is also about AEG. So a lot of great resources there that you can have on hand for working with students and families related to these programs. And then again, if you can go to the website that's on the screen at the bottom of the slide, but you can to download them. But if you do want any mailed to you, that is also something that we can do. I'm working with the print house right now to also have large posters printed. Many high schools and other community organizations across the state had the old APS posters in their career resource room or in their guidance counseling offices. So we definitely want to make sure that those are updated with all of the new information. So those will be distributed out probably within the next couple of weeks to schools across the state. And then lastly, in terms of, again, additional information, if you did want to kind of go back and take a look at some of those more in-depth reports about APS and kind of how we got to this place that we're at, you can absolutely do that as well. That's on our reports page. So there's the program review that MRG did. There's our annual Alaska Higher Education Almanac, which is, again, it's an annual publication that ACPE puts out that gives kind of some great high-level data sort of about the state of higher education. And there's some great information there about APS. And then we have our annual APS report that is presented to the legislature each year. So great information if you have some free time and you want to dig in a little bit deeper about APS and the history behind it. So again, that is my presentation. I know I'm ending quite a bit early. So please, it's a lot of information and a lot of changes to the program. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Yes, Ricky?
Yes, my name is Ricky Lynn. Could you hear me okay?
I absolutely can, yeah.
Oh, thanks, Kate. I'm number one fan of the change of moving from the standardized test score to the
Mhm.
GPA because I graduated with 3.6 out of high school, but my SAT score was a 700 even.
Right.
I'm personally glad for that one. Thank you for
Mhm.
noting that.
Absolutely. I had a very similar experience in high school in terms of GPA versus test score. And that was definitely a trend that we saw, out of that, we saw it and we knew with the reports that we do every year at ACPE, but having that kind of 10-year review that MRG did to be able to put that out there and show how many students were missing it, just, a matter of points shy of their test score, or, again, from an access standpoint, many of our students in Alaska weren't able to access a standardized test to be able to take it. It wasn't offered in their community, through no fault of their own. So that's a whole other layer of students who wouldn't be able to access the scholarship. So really, really thrilled by the changes that we've made. Any other questions?
Thank you so much, Kate. I appreciate your sharing your expertise and sharing all this information with us. I
Absolutely.
am wondering where, if an individual has a question after this session, I
Sure.
don't see any questions right now. Maybe individuals are just loaded with information.
So much information to take in. Yeah, absolutely.
Where would we, who would we reach out to? Where would we ask the question about
Sure.
the new Alaska Performance Scholarship?
That's a great question, great place to start. So I would say kind of a few options. Our Alaska Performance Scholarship website, I'm not sure if it is on there already, but it's aps.alaska.gov is kind of the first and foremost place to start. So any updated information, resources, contact information is all available there. That's kind of the first place to take a look. Felicia, who is the counterpart who is going to join me today and unfortunately was not able to, her contact information is also there at the bottom of the APS page under the accordion of need more information. I will actually copy that into the chat as well. So you'll have that right there. My information, I will put that in here in a moment too, so you're welcome to contact me directly. So I guess one of the pieces, so again, starting here is your best bet, and then contacting us if you do have questions. One of the pieces that we get asked about a lot is tied to eligibility, a student's eligibility, and especially for recently graduated seniors that are looking to find out where is my APS. So if the student believes that they were eligible, that they met the eligibility criteria in their high school, the process for actually receiving the award, the high school submits that eligibility report to the school district. The school district submits it to DEED, and then DEED sends it to ACPE, and we upload it into the system called ACAP, the Alaska Student Aid Portal. I will also send the link for ACAP, because the student does need to, in order to kind of track the status of their award, they should create they should create an Alaska Student Aid portal account. It's a free account that they can go in and create, and that gives them, it's sort of that tracker. So their eligibility information will be available there. Once they're notified, once, you know, we get the eligibility information, then they'll be able to see what level award they're eligible to receive. Then they can also see kind of the status of their award. Is it being awarded yet? Kind of where is the money? So they can follow that whole process through the ACAP portal. So if they log into their account and they see that they're not eligible, usually their first thought is they'll call ACPE, you know, what happened to my eligibility? Unfortunately, where we come into the play, where, as I mentioned before, we administer the award, and we're kind of the end folks. We hand out the money, but we don't have eligibility information. We can't go back into a report and see either why somebody didn't qualify, or, you know, where their eligibility kind of trailed off. So it's very important, if a student contacts us saying, you know, I think I'm eligible for the award, but I don't see it. Why does it say I'm ineligible? Their best bet is actually to go back to their school and find out from the school, you know, was I marked as eligible or ineligible for the Alaska Performance Scholarship? That's kind of always the place to start. And then it can kind of follow two tracks. If the school says they were reported to the district that they're eligible, then they might need to call the district and see what the school, the district person who does the reporting, you know, kind of where the disconnect happened. And so that's kind of, and then from the district, it would go to deed. So it's, unfortunately, when we get the eligibility report, it basically is just sort of a yes or no. Yes, the student's eligible. If yes, which award level. We get very, very little information. So determining eligibility and kind of why a student was eligible or not, or why they received one level and not another, it just isn't something that we at ACPE have access to. I kind of went off on a tangent from Dominica's original question, but that's definitely something that we get asked about a lot. So thought it would be helpful for all of you to know kind of behind the scenes what it is we actually do see, and kind of the best path for students to take in order to track their award.
Thank you, Kate. And since you mentioned behind the scenes, if you can share with us what are the elements of this new implementation of APS that are still being worked on behind the scenes?
So, I mean, right now, you know, our kind of biggest priority with this implementation, because it was, you know, there's so many changes as you probably saw through the presentation, that had to be input in a very quick turnaround time. The biggest priority was making sure that our class of 2024 students who would qualify for eligibility got that eligibility, and then you know, the notification and that processing all happened in ASAP, and they're working with the institutions to make sure that they have access to the award, again, if they're eligible. So that was the big piece, to make sure all the students who should be eligible are eligible and have access. And then, so that was kind of the main priority there. And then also secondarily to that, kind of at the same time, is also making sure that everybody who, again, with the class of 2024 and then continuing eligibility students, receive the updated award amounts. So that's something that people receive across the board. So if it's a student a continuing eligibility student, that they are now, if they were level 1, they're now eligible to receive that $7,000. So making sure again that everybody gets the amounts that they're eligible to receive based on the new program. Other pieces that we are still working through, probably the biggest is identifying the best path for implementing the step-up provision, which I mentioned is related to after 2 semesters or 2 terms, a student potentially becoming eligible to receive an increase to their award. They may be able to step up based on their GPA from a level 2 to a level 1 or a level 3 to a level 2, working out what that process looks like behind the scenes, with our institutions, with the ACAP system, with the certification system in terms of GPAs and tracking and all of that. That's a lot of kind of reporting and making sure everybody's sort of on the same page with the GPA calculation and all of those pieces. So that is something, again, that's ongoing. And it would be kind of 2 semesters from now would be the first time a student would be potentially or students would be potentially eligible to receive the step up.
Thank you, Kate. So starting this school year, the seniors will be notified whether they are eligible, but also juniors will be notified that they are, or what courses they have to take to become eligible.
And that is something that is really between DEED and the school districts to kind of work through and process what that looks like, what that notification is, and kind of how students are able to track that. It wouldn't be through the ACAP portal at this stage. It's still a little too early for that. But through the district level and their school level, that's something that they'll be working on.
Thank you. And students are still able to take a break and still be eligible to receive. For instance, after 2 years of studies, they decide to take a break, they can come back and they have that lifespan of the award of 8 years now.
So now it's 8 years. So it's 8 years from the time of graduation. So a student certainly would have time to sort of take that break if they need to, stop out, whatever the case might be, and utilize it over the course of those 8 years. The thing that's really important to know is that the FAFSA, they have to complete the FAFSA. That is considered their application for APS. So once a student is identified as eligible, they're in the system as eligible. They have 8 years. That's kind of when that 8-year clock starts. But in order to receive the award, they have to submit their FAFSA. So if a student, if they see in their ACAP portal that they've received, that they're eligible, but they don't fill out the FAFSA for whatever reason, they aren't going to receive the APS. It is absolutely a requirement in that capacity. And they would need to fill it out every year that they intend on that they plan to attend and that they need to receive the award. So they should be planning to fill it out every year.
Thank you. If they do take a break that year, they don't have to fill out the FAFSA.
Correct. It would only be for their eligibility won't go away. If they don't fill out the award or they aren't pursuing education that year, their eligibility, once we get that report again from DEED, that stays, it stays attached to them for 8 years. So they can, go somewhere else, come back, they can pursue other opportunities. But if they come back kind of within that 8-year time frame, they have they still have eligibility left.
What happens if a student doesn't put an Alaska institution on the FAFSA before high school graduation?
Right. So, well, they would go back and want to edit their FAFSA to add an institution. But this award is only paid to eligible institutions in the state. So the student needs to put an Alaska school as listed on their FAFSA in order to receive the funding.
Thank you. I'm checking the chat box. We still don't have any questions, but that's okay. We have this, and I've been sharing links that in itself may have been a little overwhelming. Lots and lots of links in the chat box.
Well, to add a few more links and things here, I'm going to put my email in there, as well as a link to the Alaska Student Aid portal, which again, this is where a student will track their award, finding out if their eligibility, what level, kind of the status of the money. So where is the money? That's all of that is done through ACAP. So they would, from that page, if they don't already have a username and password, right below the login box, there is a link to create the student login. So that is something that you will want to have your student do. This would be something that if you're working with seniors, they can go ahead and start, or if you're working with students who are maybe older, a couple years out of high school and they were eligible for the award, you'd want to have them go in and either create this or, they forgot their username and password. So this is the place where they would want to go to be tracking the award.
Thank you. And for those individuals who missed the session with Christina Campbell, Christina went into a tremendous amount of detail regarding the Alaska Student Aid portal.
Oh, great.
And we have these wonderful new publications. So there is Alaska Student Aid portal or ACAP info sheet. And I've been sharing links directly to these materials that can be downloaded or requested. You mentioned that, Kate. Is that something, who would we reach out to if we wanted to request materials?
So for now, I'll put that in the chat as well. You would want to email the Success Center at ACPE Success Center at alaska.gov. One other piece, though, that just reminded me when I mentioned the posters, the APS posters that we're having printed of the eligibility requirements. We intend on mailing those posters to every high school in the state. However, if you work for an organization that is not a high school and you would like to have an APS eligibility and program poster, if you'd like us to mail it to you, please email me directly. It's the second chat up, but please email me directly and I'll make sure that you are added, your organization is added to our distribution list or mailing list for the posters. You're still on mute, Dominica.
I am on mute. I have unmuted myself. Thank you so much, Kate.
Yep.
Outstanding. Thank you. With that, I think we'll let you go if we don't have any other questions. So please make sure to visit our website, aps.alaska.gov, as frequently as possible for updates. And Kate, thank you for being available to
Absolutely.
answer questions.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. And I will leave you to it. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.